So as it was collapsing, our tower, which was very next to it, was shaking so badly. The floor is shaking, the ceiling is falling, siren is going on, pipeline is rattling with each other, hitting each other, emergency siren going on. So it was really a horror kind of scene that we see in the movies. It was very similar to that. And then what happened, after some time we found out that the debris or the falling material had blocked our stairs, the stairs we were using. So then we had to go to the second stairs, and there was more crowd. And then there also lot of water started to come in our stairs because the pipelines were broken. So water was coming down, gushing down so fast that if we don't hold on to the handrail, we will wash down. And actually few people got hurt who did not pay attention to holding the rail. And then again we found out that this stair again was broken from underneath because of the water pressure or whatever, other structural failures. And we had to go to the last, third exit stair because those stairs are fireproof. So in order to go into the third stair, we had to go through the pitch dark corridor. Water is falling on top of us. Water is like ankle high in the bottom. Our clothes are wet. And once in a while, the emergency light, when it loses the battery power, then it is dark, but once in a while it flickers. And we could see all the wires hanging on top of us. So holding the wall, we had to bend down. So bending and holding the wall, little by little we came out of that tower. And when we came out, we saw the fire all around. We could see even the fire storm going like this, fire going like this. So we were just saving ourselves, and we came out. Just within about 4 or 5 minutes, we felt the ground is shaking underneath. And we looked back, our tower started to collapse. That tower was so close, we were so close, if the tower had toppled in our direction, we would have been underneath. But it came down straight like that. So nothing happened to us, so we ran away. But the smoke and the dust, because when something comes down like that, it goes like that. So it is following us, and we were even, our clothes got dusty, our face was dusty. So it was like that, but we were out of danger. Then there were many people, they wanted to just be with me because they knew I do meditation. So they felt comfortable with me. So we have a meditation center near Empire State Building, only 2 blocks from there. And I brought them over there. They had supper, the food, and they did some meditation. Then in the evening we all came. And next day people were asking me many questions. Newspapers, television. So they were asking lots of questions. But one of the experience I was sharing with them, like being a doctor, so I could share this thing, that somehow or other, whilst everybody was feeling like a lot of effect of the smoke, I did not feel it. Like even somebody offered me the mask, and I said give it to somebody else. Somehow or another there was this feeling, I'm okay. And I did not even go to doctor, even to visit them, because there was asbestos, there were other things and all that. But somehow or another I felt I am doing okay. And why should I bother going to the doctors and all that? So they were asking a lot of questions. One of the questions they asked me was that I was 95 minutes in the tower and I came out only 5 minutes before it collapsed. What was my experience? I was so close to death. I could have died there. In fact, even when I came out, I saw one very heavy lady. She could not walk and she was just lying like this. And I ran to her to help her, but then they did not let me go because they knew other tower had already collapsed. This could collapse any time too. So they did not allow me, but I was ready to go inside. So I was very close to death. So what was my experience? So I was looking back into those 95 minutes. I could not recall even a single second when I was in fear. I never felt fear. And now I'm wondering what could be the reason that I did not have any fear. It's not that I am a strong, macho kind of person. I'm an ordinary person. So what could be the reason? So the only reason I could think of, because I started helping other people, my own fear did not materialize. That was the thing that, I'm sure being doctors, how many times you are in pain and suffering and all that, but when you are thinking of saving people, especially through this COVID, you had that experience, you do not have the fear. Even if everybody else was fearful for you, but you did not feel it. So that kind of fear, fearlessness I felt. But question is what kind of help I could provide. Everybody is coming down and I am also coming down, but the difference was everybody else was rushing down so that they could come down as soon as possible. But I was watching people because I had been doing meditation for the last 27 years. So I felt I had to be different. So I was talking to people, give them consolation and was trying to say have faith in God. And they were also very happy. And then they will ask me, Ram, pray for us. Because in Christianity, prayer has a very big significance. So I will say, yes, have faith in God, everything will be okay. But what happened when the other tower collapsed? Then the fear started to set in. Then even a small sound, a little sound, everybody will get panicked. And they were like ladies, they were behind me, they will scream with pain and I could see the fear in their eyes. So what I will do, I will ask them that, just come in front of me. I will step back and I will bring them in front of me. Now it is not a very big deal. They're 2 steps behind or 2 steps ahead. But for them it was a very big thing. Somewhere they had this feeling that everybody else is rushing down, but this person is even giving his own space to us. So if they will get into trouble, this person is going to help them. Just a thought. And that's why they say, Dubte ko tinke ka sahara. Many times they say, you want to latch on to anything you find. So they were so loving to me. And actually they even called me, Ram, you are our angel. And I was laughing inside. I said, wow, becoming an angel has become very easy. Just go 2 steps behind and become an angel. But I was laughing at that time. But then I realized later on, so what it meant was in the time of the crisis in their life, even that little gesture multiplied in its impact exponentially. This is how the exponential, the effect comes in. And then I also actually started to think about, I did not call myself angel, they called me. So what they must have seen. So that was my thought. Then I started to think that many times we remember the angels who are big, very famous, and they have done something miraculous. I am an ordinary person. So, is there a possibility I can become an ordinary human angel? or they are big angels, I can become a tiny angel, a micro angel, or a particle angel. You know, like a dot angel, I'm a dot in the whole universe. I can become a tiny thing. And that is where I started to find that what really make people feel. Many times they call people angel. So angels appear out of nowhere in the time of need, where the crisis is. They start to help selflessly. They don't even looking for name and fame at that time. And they will do the work, and before anybody knows, they fly away. And they will not take anything in return. And they are light and they are flying. So then I started to think, is it possible for us to do these things? That, presenting yourself in the time of crisis, helping selflessly without anybody knowing about it, and then do the job and then fly away and not to take anything in return. I think the doctors and nurses, how many people call them angels? I'm not sure that you heard from people or not, but many people, they called their nurses and doctors their angels. That means they also worked tirelessly and without, many times, I don't know about here, but in America, many times the patient used to get so upset with the doctor and they had to handle them with a very delicate. And this is where, so somehow or other, I feel that we all human beings have the potential, but tiny angels, that's the key. I don't think I'm a big person, but I'm a tiny angel. And the other thing was, we lost 10 people in our office. We were 25 people in the facilities management and 25 people. So 10 people, they decided to stay back and we lost them. Because by the time they started to come down, they felt safe up there. See what had happened in 93, there was an explosion in the basement. I don't think you will remember, but there was an explosion in the World Trade Center in the basement area. And at that time, some of the people had got stuck in the stairs coming down, so they were afraid. So they stayed up, but we started to come down. And we survived and they lost their life. So when I used to go to their funerals, I used to ask this question, where is the justification that I was saved and they died? How even God can justify? Then I made a promise to my own self. I said, Ram, if you also consider your life is gone, you have lost your life. But now this life has been given to you. If you can use this life for the benefit of other people, not for your own self. In other words, you are not living this life for yourself, but if you are using it for the humanity, then even God can justify that why you survived. Because then God can say that, oh, he had to do big thing. And then also, I wanted to do something big. So again, another justification that I survived because I had to do something big. So what had happened in 2008, there was a cover story in we have a famous magazine, Time. And the cover story was, happiness is contagious. And at that time they were only talking about the flu. They had done study on 5,000 people for 20 years. And this was their finding, that when one person becomes happy, 5-7 people become happy out of nowhere, nothing. And then 25 people become happy. Then 150 people become happy. So happiness keep on increasing and keep on expanding. So they gave the example of you, but now COVID is even more faster, in the contagion. But then happiness is even more subtle. It is vibrations. It is subtle than even the COVID virus. So it spread even faster. So then there was a thought that how the happiness increases, we find in our life that happiness does not come from the money or it does not come from the position. It comes when we are able to do something impossible, when we find something good about ourselves, when we are able to do something going out of the way. So then I was thinking that one terrorist can shake the whole world and 5% violent people rule over 95% of good people. Why goodness is so passive? If a terrorist can just explode a bomb, why not explosion of goodness and happiness in the world? So that is where the world came, because they are talking about the contagious and the exponential thing. So the thought was that if we also perform acts of goodness, that will generate happiness in us. And what is the definition of an act of goodness? And it's the same thing, that doing something extra. In other words, doing something above and beyond my duty or obligation. And whatever portion I do in excess of my duty, that is called act of goodness. So, like just a sharing, like in India, people, when they have to give somebody 1,000, they don't give 1,000, they will give maybe 1,100 or 5,100, not 5,000. So why? They say 5,000 is my giving and taking, but 100 in the name of society, in the name of humanity, they call it sugar. They call it auspicious. So that 100 rupees does not belong to anybody, and that spreads the vibrations of generosity in the world. Sometimes we don't realize that why we do that, why we give extra. So many times I share that even when we go buy some grocery, I don't know you do it or not, but I remember when in the childhood I used to buy the vegetables. So the shopkeeper will give me the vegetable, and then at the end he will give me something extra. What we call it? I don't know what you call it over there. We call dhania mirchi. Yeah. So we always get that, isn't it? But have you noticed, sometimes our eyes are not on the vegetables, but how much the basru, what do you call it? How much basru that person is giving to us. It's true or not? And if somebody gives you extra, you're so happy that even you come home and you tell even your neighbor, go to that shopkeeper, he will give you extra basru. It's true enough. In other words, any time that we do something extra, it draws attention.